Hey everyone, welcome into the Arena Fantasy Series discussion portal. I'm your host and the founder of the Arena Productions, Expat, and I want to thank you for all coming in here. And we're doing our episode 4 House of the Dragon review, kind of unofficial review, King of the Narrow Sea. So we're going to get right into it here. And I'm going to go through the points that I really liked about the episode and kind of discuss it with you all. So let's go ahead and get into it. So, the beginning of the episode, we see Rhaenyra, of course, it storms in with House Baratheon. And it's interesting how, of course, King Viserys has set up these meetings because obviously from the previous episodes, the argument between Rhaenyra and Viserys is that she's got to get married. But of course, Viserys is like, find someone of your choosing, but obviously he's still setting up meetings and all. And first she's listening to this old guy, Dondarrion, and then of course the boy from the Blackwoods, who of course still has the blood of the first men in them and from the Riverlands. And then obviously she had enough and she gets up and walks away. And as she's walking away, the boy gets into a fight with another kind of an older teenager that was antagonizing him, and he actually stabs the guy and probably kills him as Rhaenyra and the Baratheon lord is walking out of the castle room there. So I thought that was pretty funny, kind of interesting, and I love how the older teenager guy's like, she's got a dragon, you cunt, and just basically, and she's like, I kind of like that one, she's got the power there. So anyway, so it goes on, and in the next scene here, obviously Daemon has come back, of course, from the battle, from the previous episodes, of course, and he has been named the King of the Narrow Sea, which is kind of interesting. He has like his crown, but in this image here, obviously he had taken off the crown, and everybody was thinking that there was going to be some, big showdown and a lot of animosity and everything, but he kneels, he bends the knee to his brother, and so everything seems to be great and hunky-dory again. And obviously they have like a feast, and in the next scene here, this next image, obviously Daemon and Rhaenyra are talking with each other out in the Godswood area there, and of course they're speaking Valyrian. And Daemon, he's got the haircut now, he's got the shortcut, looking good and all. And, they're talking and, kind of catching up with each other. And then later on, it's interesting how he takes her out for a little party. So it's interesting how Rhaenyra goes back to her room and, just basically, finds this map. And in the map, obviously, there's like these little directions of how to get to the area where Daemon is to meet her, in these like secret passageways and all. And so, it's like they get together and they disguise themselves and start walking around through, King's Landing out with all the common folk and everything. And it was, it was something. I mean, you see like all the people, they have like this little skit play with the puppets and all, kind of like in the Game of Thrones series, they did the same thing. And then of course, you walk up and you see this woman, she's like got no eyes, and everything. But then obviously it gets really interesting, and Daemon takes Rhaenyra to the brothels. And then it starts to get really, really serious here. So, of course, obviously, this episode is full of spoilers. If you haven't seen the episode, you've probably been spoiled already. But I will put in the description of the video. So before you watch the video, you can see the spoiler notification and everything. But it's funny how, Daemon here, he's about to start getting serious with Rhaenyra here, And Rhaenyra, she was all up for it and everything. But then what's interesting about this is Daemon just stops. He just stops, and he wouldn't let it move forward. And so he kind of puts the brakes on there, whereas Rhaenyra, she was all ready to get down with him. But my winner of this episode was, of course, Sir Criston Cole, or as Daemon calls him, Crispin Cole. But man, oh man, Rhaenyra goes back to her room, and obviously Sir Criston is there. He's the King's Guard and all, and she takes his helmet and then lures him into the room, and boy, oh boy, I mean, it's like, first he's trying to act like, it's like, I got to be honorable and respectful, you're the princess and all, but no, man, he gives in, and yeah, he's the luckiest man of this episode for sure. And of course, what happens next, is you know what goes down. So all of you that have seen the episode. So anyway, so as we move on, obviously Otto Prick Hightower, of course, he's got his he's had his little spies that had told him basically what had gone down between Daemon and Rhaenyra, and so he goes to tell the king, and obviously Viserys doesn't really believe him at first, but he's saying that, of course, his spies are very, very accurate, and they've, they do their job very well and everything. And so, obviously, Viserys, has Daemon dragged in later and tells him basically, you got to go back to the Vale again. And he's not going to go back to the Vale, man. He's probably going to go back to Dragonstone or something like that. Because he doesn't want to go and see his wife in the Vale, obviously. But before that, I mean, he's saying, let me marry Rhaenyra, because then we can solidify the line, and, the blood of the dragon, will be, solidified and strong and all that. But Viserys wasn't having any of that. And so then he calls Rhaenyra in, obviously. And but before that, of course, Alicent corners Rhaenyra, and they have like this argument. How could you do this? Alicent is, talking to her and getting angry and everything, and Rhaenyra is like completely denying that anything between her and Daemon went down, and obviously she doesn't say anything about Criston Cole, obviously. So, but then of course I think one of the most interesting parts of the episode is with the dagger. Obviously, it belonged to Aegon, and even his, for example, most likely his father before him. So it was passed to Aegon, and then of course it was passed to the preceding kings. And what's interesting, it has this encrypted message on the blade. Of course, when you put it into the fire, you can see this encrypted message. From my blood comes the prince that was promised, and his will be the song of ice and fire, and obviously that is referring to, of course, Jon, of course, Aegon Targaryen, which is going to happen a couple of 100 years later. But anyway, that was pretty interesting. But then it gets down to the nitty gritty. Basically, she's saying that Otto Hightower, he wants Aegon to be the king and all. He's basically setting everything up, and you got to stop him. And she's like, okay, I will marry, as Viserys is now ordering her to do, I will marry Laenor Velaryon, but you have to do your duty. So you basically got to get rid of Otto Hightower. And I just love how Viserys corners him and says 5 days, basically. And he's referring, obviously, to King Jaehaerys, of course, making him the hand of the king when Jaehaerys' son, Viserys' father, passed away, who, had been named hand of the king. And then, of course, Viserys goes up and says, I appreciate your service, but I can no longer trust your judgment. And then he takes the pin off of Otto Prick Hightower. If I were Viserys, I mean, this is just my opinion, but if I were Viserys, I wouldn't have let him off so easy. I probably would have burned him. I would have had my dragon or one of the dragons, maybe Syrax, or maybe Daemon's dragon Caraxes, just burn him to death and make an example of him, in front of Alicent and in front of everybody else. It's like, you made a promise during the first episode when I named Rhaenyra heir to the throne, and you, by doing this, you're committing treason. And just by taking the pin away from him, I think it was way too lenient. Obviously, as we're going to see later on down the road, the repercussions of that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then, of course, at the end of the episode, we get Rhaenyra in her room, and obviously the Grand Maester brings in this drink that had been ordered to be made by her father, King Viserys, and obviously we know what this drink is. It's like a tea, but we know what this tea basically is going to do, because Viserys is basically, well, either Daemon shagged her or somebody else shagged her, and we need to make sure that she's not going to be pregnant. So yeah, so I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really good. And of course, next week, obviously, we're going to get the wedding between Rhaenyra and Laenor Velaryon, and most likely there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff that happens at this wedding and after it. So I'm really looking forward to episode 5. And obviously, I think next week's episode will be the very last episode with Millie Alcock as Rhaenyra, and I'm kind of sad because I'm really liking her character. I think she's done an amazing job playing young Rhaenyra, but obviously they're going to be moving on in time, so there's going to be another time jump probably from episode 6 moving on. So the characters of Rhaenyra and Alicent are going to be changing, obviously. But anyway, so that has been the review of episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea. So I've been your host, Expat, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you enjoyed it, please, leave some comments below for what you enjoyed the most about this episode. And I'd really like to hear from all of you. And if you, again, enjoyed this episode, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe, and also hit that notification bell for when we drop a new episode of House of the Dragon, as well as all of our other content here on the Arena Productions. So we really appreciate your support. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching this video, and we hope to catch you in the next one. So take care, everyone. Peace.